Chain Out Podcast, episode 41 here. After a little bit of a rocky start, we're hoping that everybody can see us. If someone can throw that down in the comments, we'll know and we'll keep on going. We'll do a quick little reset to get the episode started.
Yeah. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm doing well, Daryl. Doing really good.
Still doing good? That's good. I'm still doing good as well.
You know what we didn't talk about is if we got out and played this past weekend.
Yeah.
Did you get out and play?
I did get out and play. I got out and played at Hermitage. I haven't played there for quite a while, so it was good to get out there again. Had quite a good round. Shot a -4.
You shot
not
a
quite,
-4?
Not quite a -8 that some people throw in the wintertime.
I know that was. I still don't believe it. I think I must have messed up the scorecard, but a -4 is super impressive. Yeah. I was getting ready for Falcons Flight this weekend, playing one of those tough, difficult courses out there that we have in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Langholm out in St. Albert, that one.
Yeah.
So I was playing that one. I was thinking you might give me a little jab or two there, because anybody who's been out to Langholm, it's a 9-hole in St. Albert. That's not that difficult, especially if we're going to be heading out to Aspen Meadows here, where it gets quite dicey. And we'll get into that in just a little bit.
Sorry. Yes. I didn't realize that that's where you were going with that.
That's okay. I can lay up all these one-liners for you, and you can knock down the ones you want, and the rest of them I'll just take care of myself.
I'm pushing buttons. I'm trying to make sure the stream is working. That's what that's where my head is at right now. As long as we get a picture, then I'll be fine, and we'll go wherever we're going. But
that's awesome.
I'm just trying to see if anyone in the chat is going to let us know whether we have a picture or not.
All right.
I got a bit of a mail call.
Oh, did you?
Today. I ordered this thing on Monday night, so about 7:00 on Monday night.
Okay.
And it got here today. And I wasn't too sure whether I would get it in time for Falcons. Whether I actually use it for Falcons or not, I'm not too sure. But I did a mail call or a mail order. So shout out to Disc Republic for their shipping, because I ordered it Monday night, Tuesday, and it got here today.
Really?
But what I ordered
is?
I ordered a couple of things, actually, Jeremy.
Well, that's the one thing I know about you, is you can never just have one thing in your cart. There always has to be a couple.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a bit jealous of you.
Are you?
So I had to go get my own Wombat.
Oh, nice. Look at that.
So now I've got a Wombat 3, so I can take part in Wombat Wednesdays.
Sweet. Yeah, I love my Wombat. It's one of my.
But that's not all, Jeremy.
Oh, that was not it.
After talking to Rebecca Dawn and asking her what she was putting with, I got myself an Invader.
Sweet.
And I actually like the feel of it. It's kind of stiff. It's 3201. It's got a little bead on it. I think actually now the more putters I hold, I like a bead. I'm a bead guy, so I got myself an Invader.
Nice.
But that's not all, Jeremy.
What? You didn't stop there?
Didn't stop there. After taking the advice from Daryl Banks, after saying that I putt with pixels, I went and got a JK Pro AVRX. So we'll see how this goes. It's about the same stiffness as a pixel, so I'm happy with that. It's got a slightly thicker bead than my pixels, but it does feel good in the hand. 2302. It's a little bit more fade on it than I would like from my putters, but we'll see how that flies. So got the AVRX as well.
That's awesome. Well, what I'm wanting to see.
That's not it. That's not all, Jeremy.
Holy crow, man. What's next?
Well, I mean, when Innova comes out with all these new discs, I've got to get on the bandwagon as well. So I got myself a Gorgon.
Is there more? I'm going to ask this time.
I got it in a nice star plastic. Nice. What's the numbers on this? 10.6. Can you believe that? 10.6.
Ooh, a 6
minus
glide on
minus 3.1. So she understable.
Yeah.
So I will be throwing that on some hyzer, get it to flip up and hopefully drift a bit and get some distance with that 6. Like it looks super domey. I don't know if you can see. It probably doesn't do it justice on the camera there, but yeah. So that was my mail call.
Amazing.
Oh wait, I also got another one as well. I got a racer.
I was gonna ask that, but I thought no, there's no way he got 5 discs.
Oh, you
Oh,
can't
look
hear
at
it.
that. There you
Yeah,
go.
I got the racer as well. So, what's the racer? 12-6 minus 1-2. So I'm hoping, you know, not that I think I'll be throwing many of these discs. Maybe the wombat in the woods, in the trees. Maybe I'll get it to flip up a little bit. Keep it in the wooded trees that we're going to be expecting. But there you go. Okay, I'm done now.
There you go. Now, all of our listeners, all of our chain gang members there, if you want to try an Innova disc, all you have to do is find Daryl Thursday Rundle League or anywhere else on the weekend on a course, and he will let you throw one. I'm putting that out there for you. You will, right? You
I
let
will what?
someone
Sorry.
test it. You'll let somebody throw a disc, give it a try. You're a
Oh
pretty
yeah,
nice guy that way.
yeah, absolutely. If you lose
Yeah.
it, you buy me a new one. That's fine.
Oh, there you go. That's a good deal.
Oh no, that's not all. Sorry,
No.
I just remembered because I looked in the chat and Brock is in the chat, and I think way back when I was asking for a putter recommendation, Brock said this disc. I got an R Pro Dart as well. And this one is this. I'm excited to throw this one. This one's quite soft, and it's a weird shape. Like it is super domey for a 3-speed. It's 3400. I did watch your video and Nate Sexton throws I think 4 different types of darts, R Pro darts. But yeah, this one is is this the one that heartbeats? No, there was one I was testing that heartbeats. But yeah, an R Pro dart as well. So maybe I've got a couple putting and approach discs, but I'm excited to try the dart out as well. There you go. Now I'm done.
Yeah. Does the Zuka card have enough room in there for the new discs this
No,
weekend? No,
but
we're
I'll
going
be
to have
taking
to.
the pixels out and replacing it with the Invader and the AVR. So
There you
that's
go.
2 slots there, and then it's got side pouches as well. And then I might have to take my Missy Gannon Thrasher out and put the racer and the Gorgon in.
And that has been your
Yeah,
Innova Discs moment with Daryl.
there you go. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we got coming up on this episode, Jeremy? Sorry, I kind of sidetracked us there.
No worries. We had kind of run through it there before we got our reset. But what we've
Yeah.
got is we've got the Edmonton Edgar Rundle League happened this past week, and we had the top of the world shot. I just wanted to touch base a little bit on that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was my. I'm all over the place, Jeremy. Tonight's going to be a fun night. Go on, you can take the next one as well.
All right. Then we've got our 6th Canadian A-tier tournament coming this weekend, which is Falcons Flight, and we're totally pumped about that.
We are. And then, as always, we'll give you an update on the Canadians down on the DGPT.
And then the piece de resistance of the show will be our interview with Andi Seawright from Queer Disc Golf.
And because we've changed up the episode and we're running late, we may not have a lot of time. So get thinking about the secret word through the episode. If you know what a secret word is going to be, get it in the chat early. Don't wait till the end, because as soon as we're done, we're done. And if you don't pick a secret word, Jeremy has it on good authority that he's been given the right to just pick a word and we're going with it.
Yeah, you guys know me with that. I rush that part anyways. So if you put one in the comments as we go through the episode, we'll use it. Otherwise, I'll grab one out of thin air.
Yeah.
So last week, Rundle League, this is our first year that you and I have participated in the Rundle League. And we'd heard pray tell of this probably for the last couple of weeks, that there was a really interesting shot that would be added as an alternate tee pad. Right. We got to experience it this past week. Hole number 9, top of the world shot.
Pretty daunting when I thought about it. When people say, oh, it's way up at the top of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
I even joked about it that I needed the oxygen mask halfway up to get me to the top. Like you said, it was a good job that there was a backup on that hole, because if we had to throw right at the time when we get to the top of the hill, I don't think we would have thrown half as good as what we did.
That's right. Yeah. And having that bench at the top gave us that big catch your breath moment. Yeah, exactly. Got to watch the other tee box, the card in front of us tee off, kind of get a little bit of a wind read, which there was some wind that night.
Yeah. And big shout out to our card mates. 2 guys. Well, we played with 3 guys. We played with Eric, but 2 guys that I love playing with. I know you love playing with them as well. Such nice guys. Dylan Froelich, who's in the chat, Uncle Steve. When we were on top there, I pulled out my turn and I thought, okay, I'm just going to try and throw this flat. Maybe it'll drift out to the right. Maybe it'll fade back into the left. Yeah. But Uncle Steve and Dylan were both like, no, throw it on some hyzer. It'll flip up. I'm like, with this wind, are you sure? I trusted them. I threw it on some hyzer. I threw it down low, and I had one of the best drives I've ever had.
You certainly did. It was
Got
amazing.
got a lot of flight out of it. Yeah, I was really happy with that hole. How did you
Yeah.
like the hole overall?
Well, I loved the hole. I would have loved to have another more than one throw on it because everyone said, okay, make sure you throw it downhill. Make
Yeah.
sure you throw it downhill. So then I got up there, I got my disc selection ready. I was trying to make sure I had a flat throw, all of these things. And the first thing I did was I threw it nose up straight into the air. And I think I sent it to the people who knew holes 9A and 9B from last year. I was probably halfway between the two of those holes. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that was a
Yeah.
tough par three. But there
Yeah.
were some people who managed to get it.
They kept it as a par three. And Steve that we played with, he kind of turned over his disc, turned into a 500 plus foot roller down the hill there. Gabe, I know he ended up getting the CTP on the hole, but that was also chalked up to an accidental roller as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that hole was really cool. And as we kind of mentioned there, playing Dylan, playing with Steve, those guys are so nice. They bring us in, they let us play with them, and
Yeah.
we always reward them, right? They're so kind to take us on.
Yeah.
So, talking a little bit more about that round, we rewarded them by me starting on hole one, throwing it OB, hitting it with a double bogey. So,
Yeah.
nice slow start for them. And then how did you start off?
Yeah. Not to be outdone, I uncharacteristically missed the Mando and ended up triple bogey in the hole. So when you play with us, that's what you get.
Yeah, exactly. And I was worried about that, right? Because Steve and Dylan, Eric, they're all nice. And they're like, really, guys, this is how you're going to
Yeah.
reward us for inviting you on our card?
This is how the round is going to go. Yeah. But
But
no,
luckily, we totally redeemed ourselves.
things got better. And I
That's
tell
right.
you, it's playing with those guys. They're so nice. They are good coaches, like Steve has said before, and Dylan. Even when you're playing against somebody else, I think Steve had said that he never wants anyone to miss a putt, but maybe once or twice he did, and then instantly regretted it once once they took the putt or missed the putt.
Yes.
Great guys to play with. Yeah, we redeemed ourselves. I ended up getting two turkey birdies, a
Yeah.
set of three and another set of three holes that I would never normally birdie.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest one, it was, the one that I have never birdied was the long par four, hole 7. And that was, again, all thanks to Stephen Dillon for telling me the line to go. And then, like you said before, it wasn't just a throw in birdie, it was parked under the basket birdie.
Yeah, you tapped that one in, and that was amazing, right? Because that's where we
Yeah.
normally think if we're going to get a birdie, it's going to be from distance. It's on that
Yeah.
hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I came
And
back. I didn't do quite as well as you, but I had two sets of double birdies,
yeah.
including, as you mentioned, you had the Wombat there, a great Wombat park job on hole 6.
Yeah.
Remember, I threw that one up on the side of the hill, and that thing just kept drifting down the slope.
Not going to lie. That's part of the reason why I bought one.
There you go.
Not
Yeah.
all of the reason, but part of it.
But I think that was probably two of our best rounds we've had in a while. You finished up with a +1. I had a +3. We knocked off some scores. So we're
Yeah.
moving our way back up in tier number 4.
There you go.
Yeah. So after that, what's next? Next is this
Canadian
weekend.
A tiers. Yes. This weekend.
Yeah.
What are we up to? What's happening this weekend, Jeremy?
We're heading out to Falcons Flight for the first time ever. Super excited for this tournament out at Aspen Meadows down in Sundre, Alberta. They got an east and a west course. Everybody talks about it. It filled up within, can I say seconds for that one? At least minutes, right?
Easily.
Barely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it filled up and it's going to be great. It actually, you can start camping as early as tonight, I think, can't you, down there?
Yeah. It opens up tonight. Camping opens up tonight. Check-in doesn't open till 3 tomorrow.
Right. But we're both gonna, we're doing this podcast. We've got a couple things to wrap up after that, and then you're heading out tomorrow. I'm heading out tomorrow after work, and gonna get that party started.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Like you say, we've heard so many big things about it. It's really that, if you want to call it the mecca of disc golf for Western Canada. Everybody talks about it. It's more than just the event, especially with who has run the event in the past. The aura around the event, And yeah, we're really
Yeah,
excited to go down there and see how much we get destroyed by the course.
exactly. And have that disc golf, what do you call it? Kind of just that gathering and in the memory of Rudy Faulkner as you're kind of getting to there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fantastic. Now the other thing, of course, when we have an A tier, we're going to do a fantasy pick show. We're going to
Yeah.
record that right after this show tonight, and then we'll get it out to you before Friday. Now, one thing we're going to encourage you to do, and that is this time, not only vote for us, because you got to vote for either me or Daryl or our guest in order to have a chance to win the BR gift card.
Yeah.
But also put your own team in there of players. We're going to be picking 3 MPOs and 2 FPOs tonight. So once you put your comment in, tell us what your team is, and let's see if your team does better than ours. So I think that'll be an exciting add to our fantasy picks.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about how we can get more involvement and things like that, and that's definitely a good way to get people to buy into it as well, right? Have more of a buy-in if they make their own teams, and they'll be able to see how they stack up against the great Team Shambles.
Yeah, that's right. And I can't even argue with that myself at this
Exactly.
point. But
Yeah.
and not only are we going to do the fantasy picks, but we're going to have, that's right, the nicest guy in disc golf. I think that might as well be his name. If I say the nicest guy in disc golf, you guys could probably tell me who it's going to be.
You fill in the blanks. You just still finish the sentence in your head.
It's almost like one of those things where I say this, you say that.
Exactly.
But that's going to be Alexander Penny's going to join us, and he's from the Calgary area. You've probably bought a disc off him, or he's given you a disc, or he's bought a disc off you, or you've played around with him. Somebody has done something with him, and he's the best guy. It's going to be great to talk to him.
Yeah.
Now, Daryl, we're going down there. We're camping. And I did a little bit of research. I went through every single guest that we've had on this show, all of our friends of the show.
Okay.
And that's, we've done 41 episodes, but we've had way more than 41 guests.
We've had multiples. Yeah.
Yeah. And guess how many of these guests are going to actually be at the tournament this weekend?
Let me guess. And when you say let and guess, you don't want me to read what you've written down on the script, right? You just
no.
You
have to pretend that you've never seen that number. Yes, that's right, how this works.
Well, I guess
behind the curtain.
I don't know. I would say probably more than 14, but not as many as 16.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. There's 15 friends of the show, guests that have been on the show that are going to be there this weekend.
Yeah,
and I didn't write them down because there's just too many and I wouldn't want to leave anybody out. But there's some big names that are going to be there this weekend. And I'm excited to meet them all. Maybe we were talking about it last night, is maybe we can get some surprise footage with them or some little snips or reels that we can show the listeners. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see what we can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody's playing rounds. Everybody's playing different courses at different times. So we'll see what happens, see what we can get. I'm not going to promise anything, but we'd like to, like you said, it's surprising to see where we've come from just 2 guys talking, in the first couple of episodes to then getting some guests on, and now being able to go and meet them in person at a disc golf event and maybe, do a practice round with them or, putt or whatever it might be. Yeah. So that's exciting.
It'll be good. And I just want to wrap up that part there by saying that Jordan Alway, one of the TDs for the event, he's a graphic designer, and he put together, we love Brock's Alberta Hospital caddy book because it's so awesome. It's that 8-bit, 16-bit one, but Jordan's got some graphic design skills, and he put together such a good caddy book that I want to say, Daryl, I think I almost got a little bit sick. Only because I think it really does a good job at detailing all the trees that we're going to have to face. Most caddy books, there'll be like a green spot here, and that could be 72 trees, but it's one green spot. He's got it pretty detailed, and I think we're going to be in for a battle this weekend. So maybe our listeners, as they're watching us on PDGA Live over the weekend, they can take bets on which one of us is going to get the most strokes and how many over double digits we're going to get over the weekend.
Yeah. Well, I know we caddied, or we volunteered, and I caddied for Sonia at the She's Up First tournament. And one of the stats that they had to keep track of was how many tree hits you had. So I think we'll give you the number of tree hits after the 3 rounds. It'll be in the triple figures, I'm guessing.
I think I'll use the birdie beads that Mike gave us for that. And one side will be 10s, and the other side will be 1 to 10.
That's better.
We'll see how that works.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll be exciting. keep an eye out for that. And then we want to give this to you right away is a quick little shout of the Canadian pros on the Disc Golf Pro Tour.
Yeah. So, starting with Chantal Badinsky, she was at Worlds, the biggest tournament of the year. A lot of players say they'd rather win that tournament than Tour Championships. And Evelina Salonen was the FPO champion for 2024. But Chantal was also there representing Canada. So, the top 36 FPOs after the 4 rounds, they advanced to the finals. And Chantal was so close, Jeremy. She finished 40th with a plus 22.
Right there, hey?
Right there. Just missing out.
Yeah.
But her next tournament, she's going to be up at the Discraft CCR Open in Holt, Michigan.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then Max Rogitnik, he was at Worlds as well. And on the MPO side, it was the top 84 MPOs that were after the 4th round that went to the finals. But Max was not quite there. He was tied for 122nd with a plus 9. Plus 9 after 4 rounds gets you to 122nd on the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Plus 9 would have won our tournament at Falcons Flight, our division last year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's crazy, hey?
That's crazy. Yeah.
But his next event up is Nationals. And he's posted that Worlds was likely his last U.S. tournament of this year. So he doesn't have anything else planned at the moment.
Right. Okay. And then Thomas Gilbert, he was also down at Worlds. He finished tied for 108th with a plus 6.
Again, right?
Again, a great score over 4 rounds of disc golf, and he gets 108th.
Yeah.
He's next up at the Great Lakes Open in Michigan.
And then lastly, the same broken record that we have for Sophia Donica.
She's not doing anything.
She's really enjoying her time off. She's relaxing. Yeah. She posts a couple videos here and there of her throwing or doing something, but she hasn't competed in a tournament. You know what I did see she was doing is there was a Jim Brown Cup, which is a Vancouver area tournament, or it's like kind of like a league finals thing. So she did participate in that, but otherwise her next tournament is going to be Nationals.
Friend of the show, Miguel Alvarado, won the MPO side of that tournament.
Yeah. And it looked like I did a little research. If you go to the BC Disc Golf website, they talk about Jim Brown and what he did for the sport in Vancouver, and pretty prestigious to win that one.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
Let's do it. Let's get ourselves to the interview portion.
Andy, if you are listening, if you're watching on YouTube, get ready because we're coming to you in 3, 2, 1.
That's right. You should be on right about now. This week's guest hails from Toronto, Ontario. They have been a PDGA member since 2023 and just got their first PDGA rating.
Yeah.
Founder of Queer Disc Golf, they have been organizing LGBTQ plus events across Canada and have already raised over $45,000 for their initiatives. Let's welcome Andi Seawright to the show.
Hello. Get this camera on.
Hey, Andy. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you folks doing?
We're doing fantastic.
Really good. Glad to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you folks taking the time to have me on. And I'm excited to be here, excited to chat.
Good.
Yeah.
So
that's good because that's what we do on this podcast.
We do an awful lot of it. We try to let the guests chat as much as we can, but we also fill in some airspace ourselves too. So we saw that you are from Toronto. Is that where you are at the moment?
Yeah. We've been here like this summer. It's kind of been like a blur, to be honest. We've been like just all over. We're in Toronto right now. I've been back for Saskatoon was our last event that we traveled for.
Okay.
And that was like end of July. So after Saskatoon, we did an event a few weeks ago or the week after Saskatoon in Picton. And then we had a break. So I've actually haven't had an event. I guess it'll be like 3 weeks. And so like, this is like, I kind of have like a month. It's not, I wouldn't call it off, but I have a month of like no traveling.
Right.
So we're in Toronto. Our place flooded after Vancouver's event. So we came back from Vancouver to a flood. So we're currently in an Airbnb. we're hoping to go home to our house this week, but it's been a couple months, so we've been like in hotels and Airbnbs for like the last like 10 weeks or so.
Wow.
It's
Yeah,
wild.
Was there much damage?
Oh yeah, it's destroyed.
Oh no.
Yeah, but it's done now. But what happened was there was like a series of sort of weather patterns in southern Ontario that brought rain that hadn't sort of ever been seen, at least in our ability to record weather. And there's flash flooding, and the levels of rain were so high that what ended up happening was our flood was before kind of unrelated, but then all the other floods come into the backlog. And so like the subway station's completely flooded. Like it was it was wild, right?
Yeah.
Cars were like the entire Don Valley Parkway was like there was, it looked like a lake, the whole highway.
Really?
And there was cars like stuck in it. It was awful. And it happened twice. So the first one was worse, but it's just like taking them forever now to like, it makes sense, but we're just waiting on now just our stuff. So we've been waiting on that for like about close to a month now.
Right.
Well, your summer was already busy enough, and then to have that thrown in there as well. I'm glad it's starting to work out. Question for you though, because we've heard a lot about the courses out there in Toronto. Now that you've got a bit of a 3-week break, have you taken that opportunity to try and get out and just play some rounds for yourself? Or
yeah, it's a good question. So I haven't. When did I play last? I ran a demo last Monday or 2 Mondays ago, and I probably haven't played since.
okay.
And it's the reality is like the Alberta events are a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's just been like from everything from like all the sort of just like communication, and then having to go to a city that I'm not super familiar with and find, all brand new sponsors. And that's like the sort of lifeblood of the fundraiser. So between that and then moving out, moving in, I got to play the island. Like I want to say I played the island like 2 weekends ago. And then since then, I haven't had time. I do get to play a lot when we go out though.
Okay.
So when I travel, I get to play everything. Like I just like, because usually we do all the work before we get there.
Right.
By the time we land, it's just like, okay, like I'm here. Like let's play everything within, these 3 days. I always fly out early and always leave late so I can play.
Yes.
So that's usually when I get to play the most, to be honest, is that. And I got to play in our event that we did a few weeks ago, the Picton one.
Okay.
Could you imagine that, Jeremy? Somebody not actually keeping up their streak for every weeks.
Oh yeah.
Jeremy always likes to tell me about what number week he's at.
Streak.
You're over a year of playing now, competitive, consistently every week, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think I'm into the 70s now, 70 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I used to play like 5 days a week.
Wow.
And it's just the amount of organization that's sort of like on my shoulders right now. Is it just like, it's that thing where it's like there's so many moving parts, there's so many logistics to these things, and I mean you can spend as many hours into this as you want to, right? And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like neurodiversity or like neurospiciness, but whenever I have like some sort of like deadline, and it's like I can see the deadline, it's just like hyper focused. Like I'm so focused on finishing this on the tasks at hand. So that's been taking up a lot of our time. Then just like the weather here has been tough. We've had like we played like our event we ran. We called it the county heat, which was smart because it's like 40 degrees out.
Wow.
So then we had heat waves, and then we had serious rain over the weekends, and so like it's just been harder to get out. Hoping like Toronto's got Seton is under construction. There's a course there now, which is great. There's something playable. Centennial's under construction. We don't drive Dentonia and Scarlet Woods are in the winter only. So
Right.
the options start to get, they're smaller, and it's just like everybody's playing tournaments every weekend. There's so much going on that it's like, unless you're playing in tournaments, there isn't really people to play disc golf with. Like
Right.
everybody's
Okay.
out, right? There's so
Yeah.
much going on. And so it's great for the sport, but it's like, I love just casual rounds like on weekends.
Yeah.
And just like with friends and just like bring a few beers, like go have fun. And I find that especially like this time of year when the season's in its real peak, there's just like a little bit less of that. I think you see the uptick in the fall and in the spring and stuff. But
Yes.
I think we're sort of like in the heat of tournament season right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd
So-
agree with you on that for sure. I think, Daryl, before I hop into the origin story, which is where we like to go at this point, I do want to ask Andy, with all of the different places that you've been, kind of even just this summer, what's the course that you like the best that you've played? That's, does Toronto Island stand above everything, or is there something else across the country that you've really enjoyed?
Well, I think like when I think about like what's the best, there's so many reasons why something can be the best, right?
Yeah.
Like it could just be like the people you're with. It could be like the weather it was that day. Like there's so many factors that like could be like what edged it out, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're having a shitty day and you go there and you play like shit and you feel like you're like, this isn't fun, you lose a bunch of discs. I don't think you're gonna be like, that's my favorite course, right?
Exactly.
So there's a few that really stand out to me, like that are sort of like ones that I would suggest and sort of often suggest that people, if they ever in the areas, play. The two of the best courses I've ever played are in Minneapolis.
Oh,
Okay.
We did an event last year there, and we did Blue Ribbon Pines, which is like incredible. And then Bryant Lake, which was also incredible. Both those courses are incredible. Just the scenic views, just types of like the woods, and it's like the coolest thing is like Blue Ribbon Pines has this like clubhouse in the middle, and it's open all day. So when you're playing, you like cross this clubhouse probably like 4 or 5 times through the round, and they've got like shots and beers, and they've got like food, and like it's like a bar, and it's like a hut, and it's open every day. So like you can like you cross this. It's like the halfway house, right? But but you get like this like sort of like you cross it like 8 times on the course. Just the amenities there were incredible. The woods are incredible. The terrain's incredible, and so that one is big. I think like one of my favorite courses in Canada that I've played at is like Mary's Farms in Victoria. We ran an event there last year, and it's just such a special place. The people there are so amazing. They're so kind. They just love what they do, and people there just like really love the sport in a way where like we were so successful running an event that had no registration. That was just like come and play.
Oh,
We had like a pay what you can, come play disc golf, not even a tournament. And it was like off the chain. And so like just the vibes, there was food, like it was like they all cooked for everybody. And so like they made almost 100 people come out to it. And so that course to me, like in terms of like where we run events and stuff, is amazing. Obviously you have like the Raptors Knoll and all the courses that like I would say, but often they're tied to like the whole sort of overall experience. And the two that stick out to me most are probably Blue Ribbon Pines and Mary's Farms in Victoria.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Daryl? I think that's the best answer to what's the best course for a person, like to take in all of those other aspects to it, because it's totally true. It doesn't, you could be at the best course ever, but if it tears you apart, like, we've heard Caliber is really good, but that may not be that great for us. It may look really nice, and we'd love to caddy for somebody on that course, but to actually play it may not be where we're at this point. So,
or maybe you're on the course and you get a call and you like lose your job. And you're like, I can't even enjoy this round, right? Like no one's leaving being like, that's the best course, that's the best place I've ever played. And so I think it's so subjective, right? And so those two though stick out to me. Every time someone says they're in the Minneapolis area, I say you have to play Blue Ribbon Pines. There's no question. It's so good.
Yeah.
And you know what? You saying that's not the first time now we've heard it. We've heard that from Matt Dwyer. And I want to say maybe even Brian Freese had mentioned it too, because Brian had played down in Minneapolis a number of times, or in the Minnesota area. But
Yeah, I think it's in Bethlehem, which is just like outside of, or Bethel, maybe Bethel, Minnesota. It's like
Bethel,
a half an hour outside or 45 minutes outside or something.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, Andy, this is where we get into the part where we ask you, but in our way, in the chain out way, we're going to ask you how you got into disc golf. So what we do, and you can kind of play along if you want as well, is our listeners need to guess, because I'm just going to take a stab in the dark at how you got into disc golf, tie it to a movie, and we'll see how that goes. So
Sure.
if you're ready, are you ready?
Yeah.
You buckled in?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you were offered a job at a swanky hotel in Northern Ontario.
Okay.
It was a summer resort,
Yeah.
and your job was to be the caretaker over the winter months.
Oh,
You had
okay.
just started disc golfing and had one disc. You
Right.
brought it with you, hoping there would be a chance to practice some throws. But then the blizzards hit and snowed you into the hotel, and that's when things got a little strange.
Yeah.
All disc golf and no play makes Andy a dull person. You walked
Right.
down a hallway and saw twin baskets sitting there, but you didn't bring baskets. You had to get out of this place before it drove you over the edge. You grabbed your disc, the hatchet, and chopped your way through the door to freedom, shouting, "Here's Andy!" and have been playing disc golf ever since. Maybe that's not quite how you got into disc golf, but why don't you tell us how it really happened?
Sure. I mean, there's it's probably the story that I like the best. As you know, I'm a social worker, mostly work with youth. Probably like not the most noble of origin stories, but I love how you didn't use the films I mentioned, but you picked a different film that also is shining in Kubrick and King. Kubrick, obviously, the movie. Fantastic. So both of those, yeah, I knew exactly right when you said winter resort. I knew what we were going for, or summer resort over the winter. I knew exactly what we were going for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did how did I get into the sport generally?
What brought you to disc golf?
I've so say like sort of like most people, like it was in the sort of this generation era of players. I played golf like very recreationally. I grew up with it as a kid. Kind of pushed against it. Wasn't really my thing, but my family, I come from like a family of pretty serious golfers. I just didn't really like it, so I wouldn't go. But I would like go for the buffets sometimes, and I would like, I go to it like I go like caddy for my dad or something, or like whatever, right? Like we go, I play. I had a junior membership for a few years, and I kind of got back into golf like the pre-pandemic, like 2018, and so I was like golfing over 2018, 2019, and then like I don't drive, and golf clubs are sort of they're cumbersome. And Toronto has a couple like actually decent city courses, and they're like relatively affordable for golf, but it's still like $30 a round, and you got to transit there and back, and it's like sometimes it's you're 4 hours, right? By the time it's done, the whole day's done, and it was too much. I don't know. So I was enjoying it, but I wasn't getting out all that often. Like maybe like once a week I went down to, and a friend of mine who's I get tattooed by him, but a good friend of mine, he still plays, and he had mentioned disc golf, and I thought he was like, because I asked him to go golfing.
Yeah.
He was like, "No, you're not coming. I don't want to go golfing." And I was like, "Why not?" He's like, "But you should come disc golfing." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, all right. And then I just kind of like parked it, and I didn't think about it again until like it's 2022. And then we had just got back from Sudbury, and I was like thinking about should we like start geocaching? Like I was like, what are we gonna do with our life, right? I was like, there's like, what are we gonna like? What's an activity? And so I remembered this thing like that Franza told me about, and I just like went up time, I don't know if it's still there. There was a store that was out of somebody's house around Bloor and Bathurst, and I like put an online order in and got like a Innova starter set and said like, went to the house the same day, picked it up, I took it down to Marilyn Bell. Terrible. Like I was so bad. I was so bad, but I have a baseball background, but I never played Frisbee as a kid, and I didn't really like them. Like I had no interest in from Frisbees. But I was kind of like, okay, it's a game. It's got strokes. And I was like, wow, the biggest thing was coming from trying to golf. It's like, oh, I have 3 discs. Like I can choose like how much I want to practice. I can choose. There's the barriers that I had before, like, the timing and getting the tee time, and tee time's not available, and the prices, and then getting back and forth and losing a whole day. I'm like, none of this is an issue.
Right.
And so I picked it up, and I was like determined to get good at it, or at least better at it, because I was like, I could just see it was way more accessible.
Right.
And so I was like, I got to see if I can make this thing work. I'm so bad at it. Let me try. And then, that was sort of like how it started. And I started playing, and I started playing with a group of 4 friends. Most of them don't really play anymore. But that one summer, we played like every day.
Right.
It was just like 4 of us. And 2 of them I had just sort of met through another friend. And the 4 of us like disc golfed every day. Like we all
that
lived,
same starter set.
Yeah, we all lived close to like this course, Marilyn Bell, which is a chain link course. It's like a 9-hole. We all lived within like a 15-minute walk from there. And so like that summer we just played there every single day. Yeah. It's like that was it, right? So that's how I found the sport.
Yeah, and Andy, when you say that, it's funny with the story, and kind of similar to some of ours as well, is that you go out and you go, yeah, I'm going to give this thing a try. And I would say, Daryl, I don't know about you, but I was horrible at the first. I threw it 100 feet, hyzer. I'm like, this just doesn't even fly. Like, what am I doing here? But then yet you still, that doesn't make you stop. That actually makes you say, I can do this better. I can do this better. And then eventually, you stick with it. And it's good to hear those stories, because you say, okay, this is a sport that's so accessible, but don't worry if you suck at it when you start, because things will get better.
Yeah. I think there's also like something to be said about like pride. Like you get this thing and you're like, I'm not going to be beaten by a Frisbee.
Yeah.
You're like, I can throw this thing. You're like, there's like a 6-year-old child over there who throws it farther than me. Like, I need to figure out, like, I got to beat this. Like, there's something like, I don't know. It was like this thing where I was like, I'm going to get good at it. Like, I'm going to get better at it. I'm just going to play it every single day. And that was sort of how I found the sport. And what started me like, just sort of even being exposed to it, or even like having an interest in it. Right. Yeah. And it didn't fade, which was the other thing, was like, not that I've had a lot of, like hobbies in my life that have come and gone. But it was something that like was sort of consistent over like all winter. I was like watching videos, and I was like getting ready for the season, and like didn't really play much winter golf my first year. The second year I played a lot. But my first year I wasn't I didn't think it was going to happen. But I still did a little bit. But like all winter I was like watching videos all year, and like preparing, and like I would like, watch overthrow stuff and Robbie C all winter. Okay, what am I doing wrong? Like all those like 101 tips for new players. Like I haven't watched those videos, probably in a year and a half, but that winter I consumed it like it was all I did all winter. It was like got you ready for the in my mind the season started in the spring.
Yes.
Yeah. I know I'm wrong, but in my mind that's how disc golf was, right?
For sure.
It's funny how you get so invested into a sport that doesn't cost a lot. Like you buy your 3 starters, your starter set, a couple of discs or whatever, but yet you're so invested into it, and you're going to get better at it, and you want to get, you want to continue that hobby. Whereas you look at like ball golf, you can spend, ridiculous amounts of money on a starter set even of golf clubs. Plus you've got your memberships, plus you've got your green fees, plus, like you said, travel. Like, you would think that if you're invested in that sport, then you're going to take it up for life because you spent all this money. You're not just going to quit after a week or 2 weeks. But
Yeah.
the initial amount of money that it takes, or the like the involvement or the effort that you put in to get into disc golf, is minimal.
Yeah.
And then you're set for life.
And I would say like the difference is, at least in my experience, is like I feel like you cannot play great disc golf and still have fun, right? Where I think golf is a trickier sport. Like, I think golf is sort of by nature much more frustrating. I think like if you are losing balls left, right, and center, right? Sleeves of balls are like $15.
Yeah.
It's really easy to throw 3 off a tee, not know where they go, right?
Yeah.
Chop them at left, right, and center. And to have then, like, when you're playing with people, it's hard to find people that are sort of entering the sport at the same time. So if, like with disc golf, you have all these people at all these different levels entering the sport at different times. You've been people playing for 10 years who are, still like they've never really gotten better than they were 10 years ago, but they love it just as much. You've got people who've been playing it for a week and 2 weeks, and you're like, whoa, this person's going to crush it, right?
Yeah.
And I think golf's a little bit different. Like golf sort of like, to find a new group of golfers to all start going to golf courses together, it's just not really realistic.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, I think like where disc golf is like the learning in disc golf, while it can be frustrating, I think there's a lot of fun in the learning. Whereas I think with golf, at least in my I found the learning hurdles to be more frustrating than fun.
Yeah.
You finish your round, and with golf, you're done. Right? Disc golf, if you finish your round, like, I'm gonna walk back to that hole and try to get that thing that I. And golf, like maybe I'll be back in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was things like that I think like just for disc golf made it much more sort of accessible, or much more, at least like something I wanted to put the time in to invest in.
Yeah. Well, and then not only did you put the time in and invest in it and get a little bit of the disc golf addiction going, you said, you know what I need to do? I need to start an organization. I'm going to start up Queer Disc Golf, is then what you thought. So you went from, I'll just try out this sport, to creating a cross North America organization, or putting events on across North America. So why don't we get into that and tell us about, when did Queer Disc Golf start, and how did you come up with the idea? What was the origin story, I guess, if you want to say, of Queer Disc Golf?
Sure. So I'm a social worker. I've worked in social work. I don't know. I did like child and youth work initially, and then I went back and did my graduate degree in social work. And I've been like working in the field, sort of like in youth shelters and residential treatment centers, and children's mental health, and queer mental health, and early intervention psychosis, and everything, like really everything you could think of, like working with parents of trans youth, like done so much stuff. And so Queer Disc Golf sort of started because I was looking for, like, the few friends that I had played with or was playing with that season weren't really playing. They were still playing, but it was like the frequency wasn't there. And their folks are lovely. It's nothing. People got busy. One person moved away. One person stopped. One person went back to the other sport they were playing. Like, it really had this sort of like this one summer kind of vibe. Right. And so I didn't really have any friends who played then, and I didn't really have like a community because I had really just played with these like 4 friends. And so the one person I knew I'd met, probably the only person I had really known from the disc golf community, like my friend Franz, who told me about the game, he lives in Hamilton, so I would play with him sometimes, but his days off are Monday, Tuesdays, and my days off are Saturdays and Sundays. So we would play, but it's like, once every couple months. So Kevin Sparkman, I don't know if you folks know him. He runs like the Lady Gaga. He ran that tournament in Centennial. And then he's also one of the people who runs Timmel, the Toronto Island Maple Leaf Open.
Okay.
So him and I both have like a love of hardcore and punk and stuff. And I had met him the summer before at Centennial. And I was saying, like, I got this idea, and he was like, they were looking for volunteers for Timmel. This is like April 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, can I come volunteer? And then he's like, yeah. And then I got there and I was like, hey, like, I've been thinking about like doing this, like, you know, LGBTQ like disc golf group. I looked around Toronto that doesn't really exist. Like, you know, is it okay if I like pitch it, or you do care? No, do what you want. So I like pitched like 100 and I don't know, however many people were at the event. Every card I stopped and like introduced myself and said, this is what I want to do. I have this idea. And then just like, it just like never stopped.
Right.
Like, it was just like, I don't know. I don't get this point, no idea what's happening in the disc golf league. No idea. Like, never, don't know anything. Couldn't tell you a single disc golfer. Like, I don't even know what the PDGA is. I don't know anything.
Right.
So I don't know anything. Don't know DGPT, don't know PDGA, don't know. It's not the things I'm consuming. I'm consuming, like, how do you throw a disc?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not thinking about tournament play. I'm not thinking about league, nothing. And so just that it happened that Kevin was running this thing, and I was like, oh, sure, I'll help out. And so I pitched everyone, and then I started it initially like as this like Toronto Queer Disc Golf. That was sort of the idea. It was initially named that. Initially, it was never supposed to be like a non-for-profit. It was never supposed to fundraise. It was never any of the initial goals. Like, it just wasn't. I didn't start a thing and say I'm going to go fundraise across, you know, Canada and the States and raise all this money. Like, it's like, it doesn't, like, I couldn't have thought it up because I probably wouldn't have thought it was possible, to be honest.
Yeah.
What sort of happened was I started this league, and the first year we ran like these like weekly drop-ins for like queer folks, and queer identified folks could come and learn the game. We saw moderate success with that. But like, you didn't really feel like that was what was on the pulse. Like, it was like, it was like, you know, we get like sometimes like 10 to 12 players come out, which is great. 12 new players learning the game and stuff. But then I'd be like online and people would be like, you know, what you're doing is so important. Like, can we have a conference call? Like, and I'm like, why are people so interested in this?
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening was, like, I went to PEI, sort of unrelated, had a really bad experience in PEI, not disc golf related, but just PEI in general. And like, not in general, but a general experience in PEI. Sorry. I'm a fond of Charlottetown, sort of like the birthplace of like more of the activism side. So when I went to PEI, this really shitty thing happened. And I kind of like, I don't know, I'm very much like the kind of person who's always sort of had like a bit of an edge.
Right.
And so, like, I don't know, I was just like, you know, part of me wants to like, obviously part of me wants like retribution, but that's not who I am, right? Like, I'm not the kind of person that's going to hurt somebody. I'm not the kind of person that's going to, but I've been like very wronged, right? And something really awful's happened to me, to the point of where it's like, you know, it's like, it's police reportable, right? Like, it's that level of bad.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, what do I do? And so I was like, well, the only thing I could think of was like, I think I should tell everybody what's happened. So I walked around Charlottetown and I told everybody what happened. Like, I went to every single bar and I was just talking. And Charlottetown's a very small place. You tell one person something and your story's going to start to pop, right?
Yeah.
And it was like by the end of the weekend, this thing happened on a Friday. I ended up extending my trip. I ended up playing disc golf with like, staff of a restaurant. Like, they like took me out personally. Like, there was all this stuff that happened. And so I said, okay, I'm going to come back and run a fundraiser for the PEI Trans Network, which is like a sort of a community run nonprofit, very underfunded, as most of these sort of like things are. My first idea was to run sort of like a flea market. I was like, maybe we'll do a flea market, like a fly mart with like, we'll sell vinyls and like, well, like a queer market space. And we'll have discs there. That's my initial first idea. And I didn't ever execute on it, but I was thinking, right? And then I was like, well, maybe we could do like a charity disc golf tournament. Does that thing exist? And so then we did that. I started to plan it. And so like I was running our weekly group, and I started to make more connections across PEI. So connecting with like disc golf PEI, and with like Huckett, Charlie at Huckett donated the course. So I started to like put together like what is like seemingly an event, and with still like very little disc golf experience, just like I can organize. So I said, okay, these are the things that we need. I can sort of apply, you know, the things I do in my work and life to this. And we have that event. Gabby, who's a former guest, I'm pretty sure she's been on.
Gabby Lee.
Yeah.
You betcha.
Gabby Lee. Yeah, I connected with Gabby, and I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, and she's like, I love what you're doing, and I was like, okay, like can we do it in Victoria? And she's like, yeah, let's do it in Victoria. I was like, okay, cool. So at this point, like we have an event in PEI and an event in Victoria, but I haven't announced it, and I haven't told anyone this is what I'm doing.
And you've crossed the entire country.
Yeah, but like at this point, it's small. Like at this point, like I don't think anybody else is going to care.
Right.
Right. Like I'm like, okay, like this is at this point, like I'm like, this is for me. Like this is like my way of like making like wronging the right or righting the wrong, right? Like, I'm gonna go. It's sort of personal at this point. It feels like this is the sort of fire in it, right? And what happens is like Gabby and I meet, we get this event done, still haven't announced anything, still haven't said it. And then just like we're ready to go. And on the Friday, we're planning to announce sort of like the week after. And the Friday is when the DGPT cancels the women's divisions in the Elite Series.
Oh,
right?
yes. Yeah.
So that happens at the exact same time that we're announcing our events.
Right.
One of the events that they canceled, which was obviously that was reverted, the decision was reverted. But one of the events that they canceled, the FPO in, was Tasmania Open, which is in PEI. Here's the Venn diagram of like,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so that happened, and we like it just like in 24 hours, like it exploded.
right.
It was
Like
throwing fuel on you had a little fire started, and then someone threw some fuel on it, and it just boom, right?
Totally, right?
Yeah.
Like I had talked to Natalie Ryan once at this point when we had this going on, like twice. We had talked a little bit, but like not like a lot. And then once like this happened, like we planned our first meeting with Natalie and met Natalie. Natalie came on the team. Like there was just like so much going on, and it was so fast, right? It was like in the span of like, it was almost like 3 months of just like planning. And then it was like this like pop. And it was like, you're sort of laying the roots and the seeds, and you get whatever, the conditions are just there that it's going to grow.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, sure, a lot of it's my hard work. I don't disagree, but there's also things that sort of like all are happening that are also unknown to me, that are out of my control, right? That are completely out of my control, that are no doubt like influencing why someone may choose to come and support us or look at our page or at us, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, within 24 hours, you went from like 350 to 800 followers. Like I can't even know what's going on my phone, right? Like UDisc reaches out, and Trash Panda reaches out, and it's just like I'm like, what's going on? And we hadn't even had an event yet. I'm just like, I just like so yeah, that was sort of like, that's the story of like where it really started.
Yeah.
And then the sort of the continuance of it really comes down to like, I just, we started to run them. They started to be successful. I just looked for opportunities for more. And I was sort of thinking like, I think we can do this nationwide. I think that we could do this feasibly in every province. I don't see why we can't.
Yeah.
Like this model, the model, wow, it's not going to make me any money, which is not our goal is fundraising.
Yeah.
But this will fundraise.
Yes.
And that's my goal. And so it works really well because I can cover costs and we can fundraise. And ultimately, that's what I want to do. That's what we're trying to do is fundraise. And so the formula just worked. And I started to realize that like we didn't even need that many players to make it work.
Okay.
I can have 25 players cover all our costs and still raise $2,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Still raise $2,500 and cover everything. So I realized like I don't need 100 players. I'd love to have 100 players.
Yeah.
But if you go to a smaller community that doesn't have the disc golf scene for that, we actually don't need to do these in massive areas, only in massive areas with high density populations. We can do these anywhere. And that was sort of what I realized as I was doing it was like, we did Saskatoon's smaller community, not tiny, but it's not Toronto, Vancouver, right? Yeah. We did Halifax, we did Hamilton, we did Kingston, we did Picton, we did like Guelph. Guelph was great, right? We started to do just like, I'm like, anything will work. Like any place can do it as long as there's somebody there that wants to do it, right? Like Oklahoma City didn't think would work. Like in my mind, if you told me that we were going to run like an LGBTQ disc golf tournament in Oklahoma City, I tell you, like you're out of your mind. No way it's going to happen. There's no way. It happened.
There you go. Yeah.
So I think like that was sort of like what I found was that like it's pretty successful in the sort of the like one, it's a lot of fun. Two, I get to meet really interesting people. I get to connect with queer community all over the country, and into the States. A lot of people find a lot of value in what we do and don't even know what disc golf is.
That's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's the cool thing is like, that's why I love it, is because like, I'm like a lot of people's like first, they're like, what's disc golf? Like, or like, well, we didn't know there was tournaments in that thing, but sure. Like we'll sponsor it. Like, can we come play? Like, sure.
Yeah.
And so that gets to be like, I sort of like really love that part of it. And just like meeting players like across the country, meeting like seeing all the different disc golf scenes. Yeah. There's just something really special about it, right? All the non-for-profits that we raise for come to the events. I get to meet them. I get to see what they're doing in the cities. I get to make connections with them. And then we like leave behind a connection with the charity and a local club so that exists past. Like it just feels like there's a lot of like, it feels really meaningful. And so I just kept doing it.
Yeah. Just to think that this was all just born out of that one well, I guess it wasn't born out of that one incident on PEI, but like that may have been a catalyst. Yeah, it was a catalyst to where it went. And you mentioned about
I probably wouldn't have, to be honest, like I'm not the kind of person that I'm very like responsive. So like I never put on a show before, like a music show. Like a band, and I listen to a lot of music, hardcore and punk and stuff. And there was in Minnesota in September, there was a trans person who was killed at a punk show. And there was a bunch of fundraisers in Minneapolis and Minnesota, and there wasn't any shows. There wasn't a benefit show in Toronto. So I never put on a concert before in my entire life.
Right.
So I'll do it. So I called a brewery that's like Blood Brothers. They're a huge brewery in Toronto. And they're like, we want to host it. So I went, I got PA rentals. Like I put it like, I had a sound person. We had bands playing, raised like maybe $700 we raised or something like that after bands got paid. And that was just like, I'd never put on a show in my life.
Right.
Man.
And so I was sort of just like looking for like opportunities. And if they present, it's like, I don't have these grand ideas always. Sometimes I'm just looking to see like what's in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned all those events there that you were naming Guelph and all these other different areas. Have you got a figure? Do you know how many events you've put on for disc golf?
Like tournaments.
Yeah.
We've done fundraiser events. Let's say fundraiser events.
Yes.
I've done PEI, Victoria. We did Kelso, which is really big. That was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Then we did Kingston. And then we did like this like discathon, which we all played, like 3 or 4 of us played for 24 hours.
Wow.
And we got
interesting.
donations done for it. Yeah. So we like, it was really fun. And it's really successful for a first year.
Yeah.
So that was that. Then I did Hamilton. I did Oklahoma City. I did Hoko, which was it was our first sanctioned event we ever did.
Okay.
Right.
And then we did Guelph. Then we did Vancouver. Oh, we also did Halifax is in there.
Yeah.
Halifax, Guelph, Vancouver, Saskatoon, Picton, Prince Edward County. Then we have Calgary, Edmonton.
Yeah.
Right.
Then we're back to Victoria.
Okay.
And then we're repeating Kelso. And then I have something else I'm waiting. I have a US event I've been working on for the end of November that I haven't announced. So I think we're at like 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
So Andy, could you imagine that when you sat down and you were searching online and it came up and it said Innova starter disc golf set.
No.
And with this, when you buy it, 15 queer disc golf events and traveling across the country. And like, it's just amazing how that one probably, like, maybe, you know, there's a lot more to it, but purchasing that one set of discs and actually trying the sport out led all the way through. And of course the events that would have happened in PEI and that, but it all pulled through and came together. Right.
Yeah. And so for me, it's just like, it sort of became a vehicle. And there's things I'm really passionate about. Like, I'm really passionate about trans inclusion. I'm really, really passionate about these issues. And so, like, the reason why I started to care about what was happening in the leagues was because those are issues that I care about in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know about them. I didn't know. I just didn't know what was going on, right? And so the more and more that I learned, like, I sort of have this way of working. I work in like really deeply rooted in social justice. It's a big part of my identity. It's a big part of the work that I do. And so, like, it would only be natural this was what I would do. And so it just kind of became like and when I started to see what I was seeing, then I was like, well, I need to respond. And how do I respond? And I respond the way that I know how to, which is just like, get it done.
Yeah.
And like in social work, like, we're often like having to work really scrappy. Like, we don't have a lot of resources, don't have a lot of money to make things happen. And so you have to you just have to make it work. And that's something I've always been good at, is like stretching. Like, how do you have $30 and you need to get it to 500. What do you do?
Yeah.
Who do you call? Who do you bring in? And this was like, I think back to like this earliest experience. I never really, like, when I was young, I didn't really know what I was good at stuff, like sort of typical like 15-year-old, like, the world's passing me by and I'm so old and I'm 15 and I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. Like, this sort of like, I don't know if it's like your 1/8 like sort of life crisis. But I was working at like a movie theater and we were selling like popcorn. It was like they were selling these little popcorn bags. It was for like, I don't know, heart stroke or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just excited to not have to clean the bathrooms. And so they were like, okay, like, we want people to sell these for the day. And people were selling, like, at the end of the day, people sold 1 or people sold 3. I was like, I can get this, I can sell all of these. Give me boxes. And if you don't make me clean bathrooms and you can tell me that I can do this for the rest of the night, I will do it for the rest of the night. And I cold walked up to every single person in the movie theater, like a Cineplex, massive.
Mm-hmm.
I think I sold like 250 of these popcorn things, right? And people are selling like 1 or 2, and I'm taking out the case. And so I always knew that I had that sort of like quality. Like the other things, like we had things like a toy drive, and this was maybe 2012, 2013, and we don't have a lot of money for this initiative. And I'm like, I'll get it. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I I come back the next week, I've got like, $1,000 in gift cards. This is like in 2012. Like, where'd you get it
Yeah.
from? Like, I went to the community groups. I started to like, people are meeting me, dropping things off. I'm collecting. And so I just sort of took that same mentality, like that sort of same skill set, and applied it to this.
Right.
And yeah, like we don't really make a lot of fundraising dollars off players. So
Okay.
most of the money that we fundraise comes through, it comes from whole sponsors.
Okay.
And yeah, because we want to keep our events as low cost as we can.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so, yeah.
And kind of with all that work that you've put forward in making all these events happen, where are we at now for a number for the dollars raised by Queer Disc Golf?
Like what's announced?
Sure.
We've been,
Just
we've
like,
announced 45,000.
okay.
We've raised more than that, but it's what I've announced.
Okay.
Um,
It's amazing to have that much money raised through these events. And, if we're talking about 15 events or so, most tournaments, they're struggling to raise the dollars for their payouts or to add some added cash or whatever it is when it's more on the competitive side. But on this fundraising side, you've really unlocked something to bring that much dollars in for the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah. And I mean, like, sort of like the way I think about things is like, one is like, there's like so many ways to measure success.
Mm-hmm.
And I never will look at players as dollar signs.
Right.
Like, I just don't, it's not what I want to do. It's not the way that I've ever envisioned running events. And so I've never said like, let's like run an event and we're going to charge players like, $80 to come play. And we're going to like get $65 out of this.
Right.
Like, I've never thought about it like that, because to me, it's sort of like, that's like, I don't want to do that. I want to keep events as low cost as they can be to cover costs. I want people to be able to come play them.
Mm-hmm.
I want people who, like, if you talk about even like less visible populations in disc golf, well, I want people who maybe don't always have access to the money to be able to come play. I want people who of all ages to be able to come and play. Like, I don't want people to feel like they can't afford our event.
Right.
And so for me, it's always been is like, how do we do the event as cheap as possible? And how do we do it as low cost as possible, where we can like safely cover costs, and I'll bring in the money outside.
Yeah.
And that's typically what I do, is I bring the money in outside. It's not to say we have no raise on events. Like, sometimes we do. But when you factor in, the pricing that goes back out and what we give away, it's like, it's not even, it's like, yeah. And that's just something I'll always stick by.
Yeah.
Like, everything we do merch wise is limited run. I don't want to overrun. I don't want to oversell things. I don't want people to like keep buying. And I don't like, I don't think business people love working with me. I'm not a lot of fun. They're just like, you need to have a core design. We're going to get it on our website. We're going to give you commission. And I'm like, no, we can't do that.
No.
Like, why? I'm like, because then the shirt's always available. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's not fun. Like,
Right.
But it's money. I'm like, yeah, but it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's like, but how are you going to but they're going to support you. People are going to want to support you. They give them an opportunity. I said, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Like, that's not, like, it's not like, I don't think that like, and I love releasing merch, and I mostly do it as a hobby, but we don't do it to make money. We do it because it's fun.
Yeah.
And we keep things intentionally limited run because, like, to me, that's fun.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up like in like magic cards and all that kind of stuff, where I was like, I got the foil from this edition, and I want to keep that one forever.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. I write a design, and I'm like, oh, so it's done.
Yeah.
And I get emails or messages. Can you bring back this design? Sorry.
Nope.
Yeah.
Well, why not? Oh, because I did it already.
Yeah.
On to the next thing, right? And so, yeah,
Stay
that's
tuned.
like, that's the way I've done it. Is like, we're not a business. We're not like in the business of like making money. And the merch does, no doubt, has it helped fundraise this year? Absolutely. It's helped us with costs big time.
Mm-hmm.
but it was never like, it's always sort of like an extra.
Right.
Like we're never relying on the sales of it. So I'm not like, we can't do this event if we don't sell X number of this.
Yeah.
I never want it to be like that, because then I'm
Right.
putting the onus on people to have to buy things from me, and it's not the way it's not the way I think about this. So,
well, I would
what,
say
what
Andy,
I'm hearing, Jeremy, is there's no way to get that goat towel.
well, that's where I was going to go with
exactly.
it too.
I knew where you were going.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things, Andy, right? That was probably one of the first times that you said, okay, we'll do a second run of something. Because if I remember right from seeing the posts, you did a run of the No Space for Hate towels.
yeah.
And then after that, they sold out so fast that you did
Yeah,
one more run, and did
5
the same
minutes.
thing happen?
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah.
So what I did was I put the towel out. So Craig and I have been talking for a little while, from Craig from Goat Towel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He reached out to me last year, and he's like, we're tapped this year. I see what you're doing. I'm interested. He gave me like some few like sort of like items to start the year. He's like, next year we're gonna come on for a donation.
Okay.
Sure enough,
Nice.
January, February, he reaches out. He's like, hey, this is the donation. This is what it's going to be. It's going to be 30 towels. You know what? You can choose your design. Everything, right? Just did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he kind of stuck to his word, which was, it just didn't like, I was very sort of touched that he remembered to reach out. Like, I wasn't like, hey, where are those towels?
Yeah.
Like, that's not the way I operate. He reached out and was like, okay, like, this is the timeline. This is how I can get them to you. So he really took it on him. Like, it was genuine. And so I just was like, yeah, I'll just do the 30 towels. Like, that's like, I'm getting 30 towels. I'll do 30 towels.
Yeah.
That's fun, right?
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're going to give me 30 towels. I'm not going to order. I'm like, I don't know. 30 towels take me like 2 weeks to sell, maybe a month. Maybe I'll end up with 28 towels and have to give them away as prizing, right? And in my mind, that's sort of like what's happening with it. And because I'd sold things before, but I give out like 75% of whatever we got.
Mm-hmm.
So I never actually sold things. I would just like throw it up in one story, and I would sell 10 of them and think, well, it's the market. Get the rest away, right? And then when the towel came out and they sold, what I did was I gave like a 20. I said, okay, like this is like the amount of people that were asking was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like people that I was close with, like friends, and like nobody. There was just no way that people were going to get the towel.
Right.
And like people were like, "Can I have 3?" And I'm like, "I have none." Right. And it's like, oh, like, are you going to do it again? Because if you, so then I thought, okay, I messaged Craig and said, okay, I think we have to do more. So then I did like a 24-hour window where I just accepted every pre-order for 24 hours.
Okay.
Right.
And I said, like, email me if you want a towel. And then that number was like probably like 80s or something, 80, maybe 75 or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then it ended up being like about 100 towels.
That's
And
awesome.
I ordered like a few extra, and then still like people reached out. A couple orders like didn't get picked up. But I always order extra of things because like I'm a big believer in like I can't like financially reciprocate people who support me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a really nice thing to be able to give back.
Yeah.
And so like it's my way of saying thank you oftentimes like with our merch.
Yeah.
And so like I ordered extra towels so I could send to like various like disc golf companies that have supported us, and like pack them up with like a bunch of things and sent it off just to say thank you. And so like those are the ways that I can do. It's sort of like I can't pay them, and I don't think that there's any expectation that I would pay them.
No, exactly.
But it's a nice way to be like, here's like, you're part of like what we're doing.
That's right.
And so, yeah, I ordered extra towels and things like that. And most of those things, they just go out. Like Whale Sacks gave us like 15 custom whale sacks this year. I mean, I never even put them up. I just gave them out.
Yeah.
But they went to people that were like, I'm like, I'm not going to, like, I don't need to like go and put on something and sell something else at events.
Right.
And $25. So I put them in packages randomly for people who ordered towels. I put them, I gave them to people that had supported us, and I gave them to people that if they helped out with a donation, I'd give them a whale sack, like things like that, right?
Yeah.
And like that's like often like what I do with those sorts of items is like birdie tags, same thing. I give them, I throw them all, and if I'm late on a shipment, right? If I forget and I'm like, oh shoot, I'm sorry, throw a couple of those in there to say sorry, like little things like that, right?
That's what people like, yeah.
And so I've been doing stuff like that with that sort of merch, and I love it. Like I love like being able to like I'm a very giving person, and so it like feeds me to be able to give stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like it's people will give it to me and they'll be like, yeah, you're gonna sell these, and I'm like, no, I'll probably just give them away. People are like,
Well,
what, really? And I'm like, yeah, like like it's like fun, like it's like people are gonna have a good time.
Well, and Andy, speaking of the fun and the good time and everything that's coming out of this, and we're just getting that from talking with you, is just out of your energy and how Queer Disc Golf has grown. And now we're going to have 2 events in Alberta, and we thought we should kind of roll right into that and talk about them. So why don't we let our listeners know kind of what's coming up here in a couple of weeks?
Yeah. So this idea was started with Tim.
Yeah.
So Tim and I met probably like November, like after the first season, kind of when season was like closing down. I was like, okay, I need 2 months. Like I need to hit like every place that I'm going to go before January. Boards are going to start meeting, like, disc golf boards. I get it because it's all volunteer, but like, yeah, sometimes it takes like 2 months to get like an approval, right? So I know, and it's like, yeah, of course, it's all volunteers. Everybody's got kids or doing other things in their lives. Get everyone together in a room to vote on something, like it might take a while, right? Holidays. So Tim and I met. We had an idea to do it. Initially, we were going to do it in June, and then we ended up moving it. Something happened. We had to move it. And then it was going to be the week before, or the week during Nationals was what we had it pegged. And I was like, like I met Tim, and I was like, I really want you to be there, because part of it is like I love people, and so if we've been working together and talking, like I want people to be part of it. And so so Tim was like, okay, if you do the week before. So then we kind of brought people in. Then Taylor messages me sort of like from Limber, like maybe in like, I don't know, March. And he's like, why didn't you consider Calgary? I was like, well, nobody told me to do Calgary, right? Like this is like I don't know. I just reached out to Edmonton. That's who I talked with. And he's like, well, you should do one here. I'll help you. And I said, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it, right? And so then we came up with the idea of linking the events into some sort of series.
Yeah.
Around this time, there was some proposed legislation changes that Daniel Smith, the Premier of Alberta, had put forward regarding sort of access to hormone therapy, HRT, access to gender-affirming surgeries, especially around like pronoun use and names in schools. So this is going on. And so I think probably that's what spurred like Taylor and I connecting. And then once that happened, like Tim and I, like we had a date, but we didn't have a date. And once that happened, it was like, okay, Tim and I are both like, we have to do it. Yeah. Like now this has to happen.
Yeah.
Like this is like the fire, right? Like it's like there's the fuel, right? Like
just give us a little more fuel and let's see what happens, right?
We're gonna do it. But then if I have a reason, like then I'm like that. It's like, okay, it happens. Like I don't care. Like Oklahoma, it happens, right? Yeah. We'll go out of pocket. Fine, we have to make it happen. And so that is what we've ended up with. So it's 2 events: Saturday, September 7th at Lloyd. Sanctioned event, C tier. I think it's the only sanctioned event at Lloyd this year.
I think you're right. And the thing is so we're up in the Edmonton area, and I've been down to Calgary a number of times, and Taylor, one of the good guys in disc golf in Alberta for sure, has an awesome shop, supports everything that he can. And having that event down at Lloyd Park, we've had one of our guests on the show is Joe Henderson, does a lot of social media in the disc golf world and has done some videos of Lloyd Park, and it is an amazing course. Daryl and I haven't had a chance to play it. Like you said, there hasn't been a sanctioned event, so having this one there, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. I've always been like on the sort of like hesitant side around sanctioning. I do it, I don't do it. It depends on the events. It depends on what people want. I think when you're getting into events like Lloyd, it has to be sanctioned.
Yeah.
Like the cost of the course
Right.
and not doing a sanctioned event, like it has to be.
Yeah.
Right. And Edmonton, I think initially we had a couple ideas, doubles unsanctioned. So Edmonton, which is the next day. I mean, it's not technically Edmonton and St. Albert.
Yes. Yeah.
I know.
Jeremy will let you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, but Andy, it's like saying that Vaughan's not Toronto or
Vaughan's not
Etobicoke's not Toronto. Yeah,
You're
you
totally
can
accurate
say it,
in
but it's
saying
all
that
in the
Vaughan's not
GTA. So
yeah. So St. Albert, Kingswood, that's also sanctioned. The thing I really like about our sanctioning events, and our first sanctioned event, we've done a few now. Our first one was with Daryl, who's been on Daryl Banks, been on the show.
yeah, a number of
so
times.
Daryl, huge ally, huge supporter, just been a dream to work with. Daryl has actually been running color rated divisions for most of his tournaments, not the B tiers and the Innova Rip and stuff, but like the tournaments that he was running at Hoko, it was pretty common to see them as color rated.
Right.
Not many people run color rated tournaments. And one of the benefits for me is that my challenge with sanctioning was I didn't want to like sort of like support divisional requirements that I didn't agree with. And so I wouldn't want a trans woman to come to an event and not be able to play in the division that she feels comfortable in. Like that's just so I said, everything's unsanctioned. But once we started doing color divisions, which is what we did in Vancouver as well, it just sort of like takes away that element.
Yeah.
Does it make it perfect? No. There's other things that come up with color rated rounds. There's things that like it's mostly good and people have mostly had good experiences with it. We haven't had any problems with it. I think that one of the challenges with it is it's less familiar to players.
Yeah. That's one thing I was just going to say is that I'm glad you're explaining it because I've never experienced it before. I never had, I seen it. I've signed up to the one in St. Albert. I didn't understand why there were different divisions based on rating, but I'm glad you're explaining it for anybody that also doesn't know as well.
Yeah. So we intentionally have been doing it this way. Now, one of the challenges is that in some color rated series or events, I've noticed that there's a very low turnout of female players. But it's not the case. It hasn't been the case in our events. And so in our events, we have a lot of women, queer women, of trans folks play. Yeah. And so I think that because we're intentional in what we're doing, I think that it's probably for people who sort of like understand what we do, it makes sense.
Right.
Because otherwise my other option would be we don't run sanctioned.
And no, I think, Andy, the idea of it is fantastic. The other thing about it as well is it allows players to play of the same rating. Daryl and I, we play often in MA40 and we enjoy playing with other 40-year-olds and that type of thing. But in the color rated rounds, you could have that 16-year-old kid who's rated at the same rating you are, or you could have the queer person or the trans person or anybody who is at that rating playing with you, and you're playing at an equal level at that same style of disc golf, right? And I really like that option for it. It kind of really makes sense.
Yeah, and I think like there's things that have to be adjusted with it. Like I think just like on propagation and stuff, how ratings are propagated in traditional sort of gender categories and how they then translate into color. Like there are some like pieces that I think probably need to get worked out. Nothing's a perfect system, but sort of like what I'm saying is like, well, this is how I can do it. And it's a way that I can also offer queer players an opportunity to get a rating. And so there is like, this idea of like, yes, a lot of it is recreational. Probably like 90% of what I do is focused on recreational. There are queer players that want ratings, right? And want to play competitively. And so I'm also doing it because I want to have an opportunity for people to do that.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of my, like, when I was weighing the pros and cons, because the reality is we don't raise more money sanctioned.
Yeah.
It's more cost. It's more sort of like pieces. It's more work. The TDing is more work, right? All of it's more work. And so, and I'm hesitant to say that it gives more legitimacy to events. Like, I don't think it really does that. I think it just is a different vibe.
Gives an opportunity, as you said, is if there is somebody who wants to compete, they can have that experience as well.
Yeah, and we get players that travel for events like from all over. Yeah, which is like really touching.
We really want to, and Andy, we really want to pump these events a bit. So we want to go and let everybody know, if you're looking for them on Disc Golf Scene, you'll find them under Big Berta.
Yeah.
And when you look at that, at the one at Lloyd right now, there's 30 players as of today registered in the Calgary event. And then there are, what did we see, Daryl? We saw 27 of 48 available spots registered for the St. Albert event.
Yeah, St. Albert's been like pretty, like, it's like the last few days too has been like really starting to go.
Yeah.
Like, I think it went from like, I think on Sunday it was at 18 or something, and it's to 27. Right. Like, it's starting to, like, St. Albert's moving. Yes. And my sense is that St. Albert, I think we'll get close to a sellout, because if not sellout, because I'm playing, my partner's playing, my cousin's driving down and playing. He isn't registered. He has never used Disc Golf Scene in his life. Okay. Played disc golf with me. Like, sidebar, funny story, played disc golf with me and does not play disc golf. But we played one round at Seton. I shot like a +7. He shot like a +9. I shot like an 830 rated round. He shot like an 810 rated round, and he said he did shit. First time.
First time, and that's what he says. Hey,
he doesn't play disc golf.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's an amazing round.
And he's like, yeah, I'm like, what do you play with now? He's like, just my putter. I'm like, oh, this guy, like, watch out,
Yeah, just watch a couple of videos.
Yeah, he's 40, like 43, and he's got a big baseball background.
Okay.
And so I'm just like, like, he's like, yeah, I just feel like the putters just like work better. They go a lot farther. I'm like, the number of new players who say that to me is like,
zero.
Zero. And then, like, he's like, yeah, they go like 300 when you throw the putter, I'm like,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this, do not worry, Andy. I am from St. Albert, played Kingswood. It's a newly installed course. It was just put in last year. It's a bit of a pitch and putt course, but one of the really cool things that Brock and Tim and Mike, who have all been part of getting that event ready with you, is they've taken the course and taken the 18 holes and then turned it into a 12-hole layout that they're calling the Kingswood XL. So they've combined a couple of the short pitch and putt holes. So the one neat thing to me is, not only is this the first sanctioned event in St. Albert, St. Albert's never had a sanctioned disc golf tournament yet. So we got that going for it. On top of that, the course is going to be a course that nobody's played before. And it's going to give a challenge, give you some nice, easy holes to play if you're starting out and you're beginning. But if you do play regularly and you've played in some competitions and you want a couple challenging holes, they're going to be there too. So
I love it.
Yeah. And the one thing, when we were talking with Daryl, I said, Daryl, it's 12 holes, right? And Daryl said, yeah. I'm like, you do know one round is going to be 24 holes, not 18. So by the end of the day.
Yeah. And it's a 2-round event. Yeah.
And like me and my partner and our teammate, Tom, who's coming down he's flying in for the event as well. Like, he messaged me today and he's like, he's never come out, like, he's comes to all of our Ontario events. He's on the team, but he's never traveled for an event before. This is the first one he's traveled for.
Right.
So he's like, we're going to be so tired, eh? Like, it's going to be, we've got 48 holes on Sunday and I fly up Monday morning. And I'm like, this is what we do. Like, like, we sleep on couches. We played, like, 10 rounds of disc golf in 3 days and we like leave. It's like a blur, right? But
I'm really excited to play. I've never played Kingswood. I mean, I'm from the south side of Edmonton in Beaumont, so I don't get out to St. Albert that often. I've never played it. I'm excited. Jeremy always likes to keep telling me about his ace, this first ace that he ever got, which was at Kingswood. So I don't know if that'll still be one of the holes that I'll be able to see, but I'm really excited to play it. I don't know if we mentioned it. Sunday, September the 8th. It's on Disc Golf Scene. Yeah.
And there's still time right now to register for it. And as you were saying, there's exclusive merch at a lot of the events. And one of the cool pieces of merch that you're going to have available for players at this event is the Big Berta stamp disc from Innova.
Yeah. So Edmonton, in my opinion, is like how I want to run events. Like doing a sanctioned event for $45, with a disc included, at a charitable event with it's just like, that's like, to me, like that's the best thing. Like I love to be able to offer that. I wish we could offer that for Calgary. Lloyd is just, it's not feasible with the costs. There's the price difference of running the events is very different. And so we couldn't, but we did it as an optional add-on to take if you add the disc on, I think it's like $57 or something for Calgary. But I did that intentionally because Taylor and I talked about it and stuff too. And it's just like getting into that $60 price point for me, like it starts to get, I don't know, right? Let's make it optional. The reality is like the course, what we're charging is like covering our course fees. But I'm really excited for that event. I'm so excited to play Lloyd. Community sponsors have been like incredible.
This is a good point for it. What we could do with that, Andy, is that one of the things we like to do is to shout out kind of the sponsors and anybody who's supporting. God. So I know you probably got a laundry list, but if you want to get either some local ones in or hit some heavy hitters of some of the people who are showing their support, whether it's players or sponsors or anyone who's kind of really helping queer disc golf get to where it's going.
Like in general?
Or wherever you want, both. You got the floor for that part.
For both events or for in general,
forever. So I'll tell you what, I hate being asked this question. I'll tell you why.
Because you don't want to leave anyone out.
And inevitably,
that's it. Yeah.
Right. Inevitably, like, oh shoot. Right. Oh shoot. So,
I mean, you've already mentioned Gotai. You've already mentioned Wellsax. You've kind of mentioned a few.
You mentioned Daryl Bank and Oat Goat support.
You've mentioned a few of the ones that have helped you along the way.
Obviously, Limber and Edga as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's hard for me to get we have sort of people that are like collaborators that do events with us, and then we have people that I can call and be like, I need X, Y, and Z, and they'll usually help.
Yeah.
And so sort of our big supporters around physical items, disc golf specific, a lot of our donations don't come from in disc golf. I would say that 90% is not disc golf. So Edmonton and Calgary are almost completely sponsored out. And as of right now, we don't have a disc golf sponsor. This is we have ice cream, we have everything, right? We just don't have this. So, and that's not to hate on disc golf. I think it's just the disc golf gets hit up a million times for tournaments, whereas an ice cream store gets hit up what? Sure, we like the cause, so yes. But Pound has been really, really good with us, giving us lots of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're always big on what we're doing. OTB has been really, really, really good with us. They send us, it's the kind of thing where I feel bad asking. I'm like, hey, we got 4 more events, so you could give me less than 4 packs if you want, and it's no, here's 4 packs. Just ask for what you need.
Yeah.
Trash Pen has been really good with us. In terms of disc golf stuff, Whale Sachs has been good with us. Locally, so many. Locally, I could go on forever.
Right
in Ontario and in Toronto, everything, almost everybody has helped us. Right, the bigger companies, those are the ones. Innova has been really good with us. Innova, like Daryl helped me, and so Innova helps us with our stamps, and we get really good. Like, they really help us with the price point to like allow us to custom stamp a disc and bring it in, and get it on an event for $45 that also raises money for charity and is sanctioned.
Yeah,
like
that's awesome.
I'm not paying. There's no way I could pay $20 for that and do that, right?
Yeah.
And so there's, I won't, reveal the details, but
no,
they help us, right? Like they do. They help us to get it so that we can run things. And yeah, like Neptune Disc has been really great with us, and Paragon's been really great with us. Like it just goes on, and like I could name so many. Locally, like Chainlink's been really good partners. All the Toronto clubs, Toronto Women's Club's been great with us. Conservation Halton's been an incredible partner of ours. Like they brought us in to run like a Pride of Nature series, and we're doing another event. Like they're like they've hired me as a consultant for an event.
Nice.
There you go.
But they love the sport, right? And so they're really aligned. So many things. There's so many sort of companies. South Island Disc Golf Society, like SIGs, right? Huge.
Yes.
They paid for the whole course fee last year, right? So this is stuff that we see often. And I could never shout out everybody. It's huge.
No. Yeah. And the thing is it's just, that's the great thing to see, is when the list of supporters for the cause is that big, you already knew you were doing the right thing. You're seeing all of these people coming out to events. You're getting probably lots of kind words and support. And then all of these different organizations and companies are supporting. It just says you're on the right track and you're doing the right things.
Yeah. And the life sort of like, we don't get a lot from sort of like major big disc golf companies. Like, and the reality is like, I also just don't really spend my time asking.
Right.
Like I don't call them and say, please, I need to get on a call. I need to get on a call. I need to get on a call. Because it just like, I realize that like, I've emailed once, I don't hear back, email a second time, and it's like, okay, move on.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not going to wait to get people. Like I don't need to hear back. I'm like, I'll just figure it out,
Yeah.
Like if they don't want to donate a bag, then you know what? I'll get a bag from Patagonia. It'll be a Patagonia backpack. Who cares? Someone will be happy to win it, right? Like things like that, right? And so I realized was like,
what I'm seeing, Andy, is that, and Daryl, is I'm seeing Andy's persistence and take it right back to Cineplex and pumping out all of those is what's driving it, and it's amazing. And Andy, we are getting closer to the end of the time that we had available.
Well, I just wanted to
go
say,
ahead, Daryl.
I was just going to say, it's the ultimate problem to have, right? To have too many people to thank, it's a good problem to have. But also, I just wanted to shout out, you mentioned Taylor down in Calgary. We should also mention Brock and Mike, who are co-TD in the event up in Edmonton as well.
Yeah, Brock and Mike have been awesome. Super helpful. I didn't have the same contact with them as Tim, but they hopped on and like, they just like, they get it. I usually can tell within 15 minutes of talking with somebody if values are aligned.
Right.
And if they're not, it's like, it's whatever. It's not, it's like, and I can tell with Brock and Mike, just like, oh, this is going to be great. And just like them sort of saying like, we want to do whatever you need for this to be like supportive, to be successful, right? And I think like people are wanting these to be successful, and so that to me means a lot. So I've been so thankful for this team. I'm really excited for this series. Like we have team members driving down. My cousins live in I've been to Calgary and Edmonton like probably 5 or 6 times, so I know it really well.
Good.
Yeah. So like I'm like, it's my cousin still live there, so I'm staying with my cousin, and he's playing in both events, and it's just like his son's playing in the event. Like it's just like they're driving up to Edmonton the next day. So I'm really excited. I think it's going to be, fantastic, and I'm really happy that we hit Alberta this year. Saskatoon, I really wanted to hit Manitoba. It didn't happen this year. So it's like sort of like Manitoba and New Brunswick are like the ones I really wanted, but just didn't fall this year. Quebec's another story. I don't know if anybody knows how to get into Quebec. Let me know. It's a hard team to crack.
Right.
But I'm really stoked. Like, I'm really stoked, and I'm really excited that Taylor called me and we got Calgary in too. And I think we have the start of something really cool. So the other thing,
going to be a great weekend.
I should mention before, just so the charitable partner of the events is Skipping Stone. So Skipping Stone is physically based in Calgary, but a lot of their services are offered online, like their counseling services and their navigation and healthcare navigation. It's all anybody in Alberta can access them, and all their services are free of charge. So they support trans folks with a plethora of things, like, if they need support around housing, if they need support around like legal things like name changes, like all this kind of stuff. They're like a major resource. So they're going to be the beneficiary for both events. And it might be a stretch, but I'm thinking that there's a possibility we could get close to 5,000 raised between both events.
Wow.
And so that's sort of like, it might be a bit of a stretch, but I think we'll sit like, that's not an unrealistic number. And so these events have a real impact. Like, it can really have, like, it's fun, it's cool, it's meaningful, and it also has like there's a net impact that often we don't even see. And so, yeah, I'm excited I'm really excited and so grateful, and appreciate you folks having me on as well.
Oh, you bet. And everybody who's listening and watching this, whether they're watching it live or they watch it when we post it up afterwards, there's still a lot of time. Get in there. There's space. Register for the events. And I'm kind of the king of the segue here, Andy, with this, because if you don't sign up for these, you're probably going to feel like you're alone on an island, just sitting at home while everyone else is playing an event. And Daryl, why don't I send it over to you?
You can send it over to me, Jeremy. I'll lead it right in.
Now it's time for Desert Island Discs. Picture this. You've taken a relaxing cruise, however the ship goes down. You manage to swim to an island. And fortunately for you, there's an 18-hole disc golf course. Which 3 discs are you taking with you on the island?
We figured we had to lighten it up a bit, hey?
Yeah. I really want it to be that end of a starter set. I really hope you have those 3 discs, but that's okay. Any 3 discs you're going to take with you on the island. A putter, mid-range, and driver, but it can be any. Doesn't even have to be that. That's what we used to say.
Yeah, it's an easy one for me. So for a driver, I'm taking I can get very specific, but I'm taking a G-Star Mamba.
Okay.
It's like one of my favorite discs of all time.
Right. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I did Mambas on one of our Crew Disc Golf 2024 disc runs. So that's my driver, no question. One of my favorite discs. For a solid, like, I'm not like a big, like 4 or 5 speed thrower, but I'm definitely taking like an Infinite Tomb.
Oh, okay.
It's like one of my favorite discs. I don't know. It's like a 3301. 3301 sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah. It's got a really flat top. It's got a nice feel to it, and the swirly plastic. It's like one of my favorite discs.
Right.
I throw it all the time for approach shots, but also it's just a great disc to throw. So I'm taking that. And then the other thing I would take, I'm trying to think like in that sort of like 4 or 5 category. I'm definitely, you know what? Forget it. I'm bringing my Neptune splash putter.
Okay.
The Neptune out of Virginia, who is Nally Ryan's primary sponsor, good friends of ours. We went and spent a weekend with them, helping them run the booth and at Northeast Disc Golf Expo. The Splash is like one of my favorite discs of all time. It completely saved my putting. Like I was throwing bricks, and people were noticing. Like they were like, "What is going on?" And I'm not in the business of like saying which putter it was that ruined it.
Yeah.
But there was a putter that wasn't working.
Okay.
And my
Everyone's
friend kept noticing it. Actually, my friend who's flying in for the event, Tom, And he said, like, what is going on? Look like that thing moves. And so I was like, I didn't bag anything in Neptune. I still had some Neptune, and I was like, okay, like I'll do the splash. I'll take these new discs and throw them. And I don't know.
Just clicked.
It clicked. So
Yeah.
those are the 3 discs I'm bringing. But yeah, the Innova Mamba, the Infinite Tomb, and the Neptune Splash, probably like an odd selection, but
yeah.
That's part of the thing we love about this, hey?
Yeah.
Is getting these different discs.
Tim kind of broke the mold because whether how much you know Tim or not, he's a Firebird guy. So he picked Firebird, Firefly. So he kind of broke the mold on the old putter, mid-range, and driver. So
yeah.
And not only that, Andy, we've also had it too where people really dive deep into this island. And was it Brian Freese, I think, wasn't it, Daryl?
Yeah.
He was going to bring a machete because he thought he was probably going to have to save himself from the wild animals on the island. So the machete was going to be what he would use.
The overstable 14-speed driver would then transform into a physical machete.
Exactly.
You get like you know what you should. It would be funny if like you get whatever disc you choose, you get to play with, but you also get whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So my musket would help me out, right?
You get a leopard. Like it's your leopard, right?
There you go.
But yeah, anything flippy, anything understable, and then anything sort of like neutral for like approach and putting is what I like to play with.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And Andy, we appreciate everything you're doing and being on the show. And we want to give you one last moment here. If there was anything that we didn't cover or anything you wanted to shout out, this is your time to do that.
I guess the other thing I want to do, and I didn't mention it specifically, and I should, is that PGA Canada has come back on to support us again this year for a second year in a row.
Okay.
And so I want to make a big shout out to them as well. Specifically like the donation that they make to us, and it is sort of become like an annual contribution to us. And so I really appreciate that they value what it is that we're trying to do. I want to encourage people. Like, other thing I want to sort of say is if like people are feeling like maybe this isn't the space for them, or if they're taking up too much space, or maybe they're feeling like a little bit uncomfortable, that like come play. Like, this is sort of about like meeting people that are different than you. This is sort of like about like, but it's like the events are for everybody. Right. And so sometimes we'll get people to be like, oh, but like, I'm not queer. But it's like, no, but like, that's the point. Like, like
inclusivity.
Yeah. Like, you know what? Sure. Will there be a time in the future where like, maybe I could run an all like LGBTQ like tournament, like potentially, but like, the thing is like, that's like not what I'm looking to like bring people together. I'm looking to like sort of, even if people like don't always necessarily like agree on everything, like I want people to like be exposed to just like meet people, and to like, you never get to those experiences unless you experience them, right? Yeah. And so I encourage someone like, like, if they're on the fence or they don't know, whether to come or not to come, like that, like everybody's welcome, that like, we really appreciate folks showing up, and that like, there's space for everybody. There's space there for anybody who wants to play. And I like welcome people with open arms. So that's sort of like the last few points, I guess, I've got.
Perfect. So I think if anyone was on the fence, and they're probably on disc golf scene right now, just ready to press the button, button, join. You're going to have an amazing time. I can't see, Andy, with you being there, how it can be anything less than an amazing time. So,
and there'll be fun stuff. Like the other thing, like players don't know about me in Alberta, because I don't run events there, is that like, if we hit our numbers, like we're quite generous.
Okay.
So like, if I get a lot of raffle items and we hit our numbers, who wants to run a raffle?
Yeah, it's a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
So that's so players in Ontario have like come to learn this, is that we try. So like, I said, I don't see players as dollar signs.
Yes.
So I'm not looking to nickel and dime players.
Yeah.
So we only use raffle. Raffles are there when we need them, and if we don't need them, then we don't need them.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Awesome. I can't wait to meet you, Andy. I'll
Yeah.
be there. I'll be there on the Sunday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't wait. It's gonna be a lot
And
of
if
fun.
I can't play Andy because I'm so close, if I'm in town, I'll try to make it down and at least meet you in person and maybe participate for an hour or so before I got to move on.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you so
Awesome.
much for
Awesome.
joining us.
Thanks for your time, Andy.
Pleasure. Okay, have a good one, folks.
See ya.
Okay, yeah, bye.
Bye.
Daryl, that is going to be quite the event that you're going to be able to get involved with there on the 8th is what we had for the date, right?
8th for the Sunday the 8th for St. Albert, Saturday the 7th if you happen to be in Calgary.
Yes. So that's awesome having Andy on the show. As we said, we are going to get to the point here where if you like our content, we always want you to subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, like some posts, comment, tag us, do whatever you can to help us grow, because helping us grow gives you more content just like this.
Exactly. We have our 250 subscriber giveaway coming up. We're still working towards it.
Yep.
Asking in the chat, anybody put in thinking of a secret word? Everyone's
I did see one for you at the beginning there, and it was when you kind of went on a little bit there with your mail call. I was like, oh, do you have something else in your mail call?
I do have something else in my mail call, actually. I forgot
All right,
to mention it. I was going to bring it up earlier, but this is something else. I also got another, because I like them so much.
Yeah.
I got another goat towel. This is just, so if you go on to Disc Republic, they do have, you can go on there and buy lab seconds for discs. This is a misprint goat towel.
Well, I don't see anything misprinted.
Can you see the misprint?
No, not at all. That looks good.
Awesome towel.
Yeah.
So another shout out for them. But yeah.
Well, here we go. It's sold then. Earlier on, Sonia had suggested Innova Addiction.
Okay.
And I think we should use Innova Addiction, and we got to drop Big Berta in there.
Big
Secret
Berta's
words.
got to be in there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, everybody,
there you go.
Thanks for joining us. And Daryl, when you get out to Kingswood there, I hope you find the hole that I got an ace on, and I hope you have a very beautiful throw on it. And I hope everything looks really, really perfect. And it'd be really unfortunate if that disc just accidentally, possibly, maybe, kind of chained out.
Thanks, everybody.